Hey everybody, Michigan here. Welcome back to another battle breakdown for you. And if you watch the last battle breakdown, you'll see that this is part of the same advance. We are playing against Ryan here on Cliff. And as always, I'm going to pause it, talk about our strat, talk about our lineup, and what we think the enemies are going to do. So let's pause it now. So this we brought 3 IS-7s, 4 Chieftains, 1 VZ, 5 CS-63s, 1 Foch B, and 1 Sturv. Let's get the easy ones out of the way first. Foch B, B1. It's a great vehicle. Now, the Foch B isn't my favorite. However, what the Foch B has is that 6-round autoloader that pretty much expends all of its shells if you fire them as soon as they're loaded in 10 seconds for a total of 2,400 damage. So what that means is that if they hit and pen all of their shots, that is a full tier 10 hit points worth of damage. I guess we want to call it that. Hit points worth of damage on the enemy team pretty much instantly. Sturv, pretty much a guarantee for this map, either at A5 if you spawn in the north, or K5 if you spawn in the south. Can cover the south side, can cover enemies pushing around here, can cover enemies pushing around the backside, the hill, and the middle. Pretty much the most valuable vehicle if the enemies decide to get aggressive. Now let's go into a little bit of the more difficult ones. We'll get to the CSs last. Now I intended on bringing 7 Chieftains. Actually 6 Chieftains and 2 VZs, but we didn't quite have that, so we have 3 IS-7s, 4 Chieftains, and a VZ. So we're going to put 2 vehicles down south here. We are going to put the VZ on the corner. Like the Foch B, it is a lot of damage output in a low amount of time. Now, again, the VZ, like the Foch B, doesn't have a lot of armor. However, we're going to use our Sturv to help them out a little bit if the enemies decide to push it. So the VZ, 2 shots, 980 damage sitting on that corner. We're going to put an IS-7 hanging back in the buildings. On the IS-7, it hits for 490, decent, but the main point of it is to add some depth, meaning that it's another tank the enemies have to push through if they want to, get back in here or push up, and it's going to allow the Sturv to get a lot more hits off. Now you could say, well, if you're going to do that, put a mouse there. However, if the enemies don't push the low side, we need that vehicle to actually be able to push up and get their gun in the fight. So a mouse would be a little too slow. An IS-7 is a great balance of fire, power, armor, and speed. What is next? Okay, moving on to the last chunk. 5 CSs. So the 5 CSs are split up into 2 groups. And if you play on Cliff a lot, you notice that most of the time, teams will push 2 CSs up the hill. And that's exactly what we're going to do. We're going to use our first 2 CSs. I believe it's Smack and Sleet, and they're going to go up the hill. Now, what about the other CSs? Now, this was actually something that I saw another team do. So, this part of the strat is not mine. I took this from a clan that actually absolutely wrecked us doing it. So, the other 3 CSs are going to be coming flying around the 9 line, and they're going to shoot for Hotel 9 right here, this ridge. This ridge gives just enough gun impressions for CSs to work, and what this does is it pressures the vehicles in the mid. They can no longer hang out here, and either they have to push over or they have to come back, and we'll see what the enemies decide to do. Now, obviously, they could try and retreat, or they could come down the F line, but that usually isn't the best option. The enemy team are bringing 4 version 4s, and then just a slew of heavies in the Sturv, who's probably going to be in K5. So let's see where they decide to bring it. Now, what I believe they're going to do is they're going to be coming south side. That is my personal opinion. Now, again, I'm not going to ruin it. So we're going to just take a minute here while we see how the first couple minutes pan out. And that should be noted that oftentimes I'll ask, if you look in the middle of the screen with my cursor, I'll ask a couple of chieftains to hang out here. And that means that if the CSs do decide to go up, that those tanks are fully aimed and prepared for that shot, while the other vehicles pushing up to the mid, are shooting on the move. So their accuracy isn't quite as good. So we've got our 2 CSs headed up to the hill. We've got our 3 going around the backside. Our IS-7's coming to the corner. Now, actually, they flip-flop down there. So not quite what I was looking for, but no worries there. And there is 1 CS coming up. So now we have an interesting situation, and there we go. We have 4 version 4s going low side, but we also have a bunch of mediums in the middle. So this is going to be an interesting situation. And what do you do in this situation as a call? So you can see what I'm clicking here is that the enemies vastly overmatch our group on the south side, and we're going to lose this IS-7, Foch B, and VZ fairly quickly. But what that means is the enemy team are pushing away from both their Sturv and their mediums. We need to get super aggressive and clear them out. Now, like the previous battle breakdowns, when the enemy had an advantage, they didn't take it. And we don't want to be stuck in that position. So if they're going to overmatch some of our group, we have to overmatch some of theirs. So let's take a look and see how this pans out. Now the enemy team are taking middle. In addition, going south. So they actually haven't pushed all the way. And that means they're going to come up on these flanks fairly quickly, which means we need to move now. Now, unfortunately, some of our chieftains in the back got a little stuck. Oh, there's the Sturv. I'm going to try and use the rock here to pick him out. And we're looking for that CS. Not the greatest idea there. Again, I really want to get over here and clean the Sturv out. Now, these CSs, I really wanted them to go a little further. You know, they're hanging out against 140s, but they're all full health. And the 140s aren't giving them easy shots. So, it was one thing. Now, the CS decides to drop down before Chucks rams him off. So, I'm going to now push toward the Sturv. And unfortunately, I'm going to be stuck in not the greatest situation here. Which is going to result in a fairly poor performance. I know I need to move quick, because these vehicles are going to shoot me inside. Unfortunately, I'm going to get tracked. I burned my repair kit, so now I'm going to die. But I'm going to get the Arty Strike off against the Sturv. I'm going to activate the Inspire, so I at least get the boost. And there we go, my game is over. Now, if you look at how this battle is playing out right now, it doesn't look all that great for us. We're fairly strung out. We have one CS tanker was able to fulfill what I was looking for and is going for this Sturv. Now, again, if tanker wasn't over here, the Sturv would have backed out of the strike and then gone dark, and it would have been a mess all over again. We got two CSs hanging out over here. We got one CS who fell off the hill. One is still on the hill. Chucks is stuck behind the rock, and we have a bunch of people over here. The VZ is going to get run over, and the Sturv is, I guess, trying to get shots through the buildings. We're down 2 tanks, but we are up, and we're only up 500 health. It's pretty negligible.
Everyone get out.
So tanker's looking for the Sturv. They're shooting him, and unfortunately, tanker's going to go a little too aggressive there, and that means he's going to fall off the hill. So we no longer really occupy that position. So now he just has to stay safe. So I'm continuing to call it. I'm wondering when I'm going to switch vehicles here. Not quite sure why. Here we go. So let's take a look from this position here and kind of see what's going on. Because at this point, I haven't really been calling the opposite side. So these vehicles here are kind of stuck. Now, they wanted to get shots into these version 4s. I get that entirely. They also weren't entirely sure if they could come around this corner, so they're a little stuck. And that means that we're very light on this side. We have one chieftain and those 4 CSs. And one of the CSs obviously has fallen off the hill. So those version 4s are completely stuck now. They cannot get out without getting lit and shot by the Sturv. And we now are a decent amount of hit points, and we have evened the odds. So we can see we're getting some nice shots there into the version 4s. Now the big thing right now, I have told everybody in here, other than getting the CS up into A5, everybody needs to stay safe. And I say this a lot, and people are like, well, you know, you're on attack. You got to go after him. Look at the time. Out of a 10-minute battle, we are barely 2 minutes into this. Well, we're 2 minutes and 9 seconds into this battle. And we're in a potentially risky situation. We are way lighter than them. Yes, we have more hit points, but a lot of our tanks don't have any armor, and they're low alpha, so they can't trade. Which means we need this enemy team to come in here and drive into the open so that we can utilize our DPM to offset some of the armor issues we're going to have. In addition, we also have 3 version 4s who are stuck. So that's even more hit points for us. The worst thing we can do right now would be to try and attack them. We have to never interrupt the enemy while they're making a mistake. I think that's one of those Sun Tzu quotes, but it really applies here. And as a caller, this is one of the greatest struggles that I have, is keeping players from poking and losing health. If the enemy decide to push in and we have a bunch of one-shot CSs over here, all it's going to take is one lucky shot from a heavy, and they're toast. We're going to lose this chieftain here, who not only is getting shot in the front, but is also getting shot by vehicles across while they're engaging this IS-7. So that is going to be the biggest thing here. And obviously, as we lose Chucks there, I'm featuring this battle for a reason. So now the CSs are starting to head over there, and these heavies are backing off. We're going to let this play out a little bit. I wish I could change things here, but we are going to stay in the free cam mode. This is a good vantage point here if you want to take a look. And we've got 4 heavies, or 5 heavies down there. I can't tell. We got the Sturv. We get CSs. Obviously, we've got a CS who's very low health, the one who fell off the hill. But we do have the mediums headed over to that hill. That IS-7 is stuck, and he is going to eventually fall up the hill. Not quite seeing it yet. You can see the heavies over here are pushing in, and they're being punished for it. We're down a tank, but we're up a ton of hit points. So the Sturv is getting some nice shots in there. This tanker is a one-shot, and unfortunately that IS-7 is probably going to get it. Now, this is a very nice position here. Take a look at where Mothers has gotten. He is now up in the opposite perch. Now, if you are an enemy team, or if you're in a game and the enemy team occupy the A5 perch and the K5 perch, you are in a lot of trouble. Because both of those positions are incredibly strong. And to have both of them is pretty much makes it impossible for you to maneuver anywhere other than the one line. Because if you go anywhere outside of that, you're going to get shot. And you know, the 2 line, you don't have any buildings there or anything. So it's going to be quite difficult for the enemy to dig themselves out of here. But they still are up the vehicle, and they're about to be up another vehicle because we are going to lose a CS. You can see that 277 pokes out, and he's getting shot from multiple angles. Remember, we have 2 CSs hanging on here, 1 on the top, 1 on the hill. So that's a lot of different angles. Even if 2 of them can't shoot it, 1 of them can. And there you go. As Sergeant Fury gets a nice hit into that retreating 277. We're taking a look here at the Sturv situation. We still have those 268 version 4 pretty much stuck back there. I don't know what they were trying to do. I think they maybe thought vehicles were back there, or they were trying to cap out. But pretty much they are toast here. Now look at this. Look at the enemies pushing out. Let's watch what happens as they try and push out. You can see we have an IS-7 coming in here. He's going to get crossfired by both of these CSs here. There's 1, actually 3 CSs. Because what we're doing, we've coordinated, is all 3 of our CSs are focusing out the tank closest to Sergeant Fury. Sleet isn't in a lot of danger, so the closest vehicle to him isn't a problem. Neither is Mothers. He has hard cover. Sergeant Fury is backed up against the edge of a cliff, and he's in the open. So it's imperative that we clear out the vehicles closest to him. Oh, we got a 256. He's going for it. Sergeant Fury is going to take him out. Now we have a 277 coming in, and we're not going to be able to clear that 277. So Sergeant Fury is going to have to do some evasive maneuvers to make sure that that guy isn't able to push him in. Now, I don't know what the 277 was doing, but he completely missed. And now we have a vehicle coming after Mother. So now this is priority number 1. Sergeant Fury is safe. The IS-7 and the VZ have disappeared, and heavies have pushed him into the mid. So while Mothers is still on full health, we'd like to keep him as close to that as possible. Unfortunately, he's going to bounce his first shot, and Sleep's going to come in. Now we've got, another issue, which is this IS-7 is now pushing Sergeant Fury. So now we've got 2 separate battles. However, we're still going to focus out the 277 here in front of Mothers if possible. The Sergeant Fury is going to handle that situation himself. With a dead driver, it's going to take him a little bit to maneuver. However, he can still take 2 hits from that IS-7 before he dies. And he's got better DPM. And now he also has Sleet's attention after he finishes off of that chieftain. So now it's wrap-up time. Now you can see, we're only up 2 vehicles, but we're up 8,700 health. And what that means is the enemies have done a decent job of keeping their low health tanks safe. But a lot of that is going to come down to those 3 version 4s. So for all intents and purposes, they really only have 3 vehicles left who can, maneuver at all. And that's another thing that score on the top doesn't take into account. Is do they really have 5 vehicles left? Because I would argue they really only have 2. Because those three version 4s are out of this game, as I've said multiple times. They haven't even attempted to get them out of there because they know. So now it is just a matter of time. We're going to speed this up just a little bit. And the nice thing about being up this much health, but not being up a lot of tanks, is that you can actually make some sacrifices. You can sacrifice a decent amount of HP here to gain map position and to kill vehicles. So that is what we're going to focus on doing. Let's take a look as this game starts to wrap up. Rear tag coming in on the side. He's going to look for these version 4s, but he's going to focus that vehicle out. looking over there at the version 4, so we're going third person, and now it's just a matter of time before we finish the chicken off. Now you can see we took a lot of health. We're now down about 2,000 health from where we were just a minute or two ago. But what we did manage to do was clean up 4 vehicles doing it, so it was a worthwhile trade. For the most part, you do want to trade points to take out guns. And with the last vehicle left, Black Wasp, over there by him. Watch this finish up. Black Wasp trying to jump on top of the version 4, but the V4 is just going to back out of the way, and it's going to be up to the final vehicles here. We have the Sleet down low, and the version 4 is going to back himself up against the ridge, making his frontal plate just a little easier to pen for tank kill 15. So I hope I showcased one of the things not to do here, which is, make sure we take, not what not to do. Well, not what not to do from the enemy team, which is, don't trade unnecessarily, especially when the enemy team has better positioning. They drove straight out into a crossfire. We held our positions. They wanted to push into a crossfire, and they paid the price. So thank you so much for watching another longer battle breakdown. But I hope you enjoyed it, and I'll catch you in the next one. See ya.